Hi, I'm Mikey, and this is eBay Scavengers, and with me this week is Ryan, and we are going to talk about tips for starters. This is episode 18 of eBay Scavengers. So, Ryan, we got a big list of content to cover. I think that one of the biggest mistakes that eBay, people that are new to eBay, and I mean sort of new in the sense of like trying to sell a lot of stuff, they don't around enough and kind of watch other eBayers to see what they're doing. Do you think that that's like the best advice to start with is to learn to follow other eBayers first? Would you kind of say that watch and learn is important?
I think watching and learning from other people is important, but I also think you need to make sure that you're, buying and selling stuff that's interesting to you. You don't want to get into a business where you're like selling stuff that is not interesting to you. I mean, it's really, if you're going to spend so much time like taking photographs and listing and, researching these things, it has to be interesting. But yeah, I think following other people and just seeing what's selling, that's always really good. Like that's a great starting point.
So I was talking to Jay last week, and he was mentioning that he'll stand in a checkout line at a grocery store and pull out his iPhone and start watching what everyone's been listing and what's been selling for them.
Yep.
And after I realized, I got to put these saved searches into my phone, using the eBay app, and I put them in and started watching what all the local garage sailors who I've been following. I started looking at what they were putting up and selling, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was totally
And, what were you seeing? I'm interested to hear this now.
At every yard sale I go to, I'm talking for years, I've seen them at every yard sale. These are people who are up at 6 in the morning just to go out as soon as there's light. They're like showing up. There's sometimes some of these people carry flashlights and show up at the tables that early. And I thought these are really serious eBayers, right? But I hadn't been following their stores. So I go and look, and they're like selling 3 pairs of shoes. Each pair of shoes is like $10.
Yep.
And that's all they. I'm like, what's going on? These people are at every yard walking out with huge bags of stuff. How is it they have 3 items up for a total of $30 on eBay?
Well, that speaks to several things that we have in our outline here, which is avoid hoarding. Those people are obviously hoarding. Their house must be full of stuff that's not on eBay, that's not even for sale.
Yeah, you got to really list that stuff. And it was just incredible to me. And a lot of people, I should get into this later, but I couldn't believe the keywords, like the descriptions they were using. They would have 3 words, and the rest of the title for the item had no content. So yeah. I don't know how you could find this item, even by accident on eBay.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when you look around sometimes and you see what the competition is, and it's like white sneakers. And you're like, that's your title? How's anybody going to find that?
Don't say men's, women's, or note the time, or use slang like vegan or leather, or like, really? You didn't put any of that in the title?
Well, the thing is that the great thing about eBay is they used to only have 50 characters for a title, and now they have 80. So you can really fill up the title with word, descriptive keywords, and that is a pretty big part of it, getting people to find your item.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it when I'm trying to take information from someone else's listing and it's the old 50, and then I got to fill it with my remaining, 50. And I'm running out of stuff to say, so I'm like, "Made in USA" is like one of my favorites to put in the title if I have nothing of interest to say.
Right? Yeah. I know, it's funny. Sometimes there are those titles where you're like, I said everything already. But so on the outline that we're working from here, I'm looking at one of your lists, and it says, "Don't buy stuff yet." So what do you mean by that?
Well, I think if someone is kind of interested in getting into eBay, I would say start with your own things. Start selling what you have in your shed or that's cluttering your house. Sell your electronics or clothes or just things that you're not using in the last year, and practice with that, because one is usually when I sell my own things, they're worth a lot more than what I'm picking up at yard sales. I bought maybe some better brands or whatever, but it's all right here. There's no reason. And also you're clearing out space for your future eBay store. So before I think people get into eBay in a serious way, try just like selling a bunch of crap that's already cluttering your house.
Yep, I think that's great advice, and also you know your stuff really well, so you know if it works, you know how to use it, you know how much you paid for it and how much it's worth. So that's a really good practice run.
Right, and recently I had a friend visit, and she's moving to New York, and she's moving from New Mexico. Been here for over a decade, so you can imagine how much stuff she's acquired while living in a state where you can have a big property, and now she's moving into a 700 square foot apartment. Wow, that's a lot of shrink that you got to do. So that is, I think, the perfect opportunity. If you have a few months, which in her case she does, just liquidate your home over eBay. And I think that it's like that's going to pay your first year of rent if you're, a New York City rent, which is substantial. So I'm amazed more people aren't using like eBay as a way to move.
Yeah, I mean that's how we used to do it, mostly on Craigslist. But yeah, eBay too. You just get rid of everything and then move.
How much stuff do you keep around after you buy? Like, you guys have a dedicated room in your house for what you've purchased, but it's not listed yet. Is that right?
A dedicated room. That's funny. No, our whole house is filled right now. It's like insane. I mean, it's insane because we buy weird, huge things like furniture and lamps. Like my house is filled with this stuff. So that is key, that you try not to be a hoarder and to list things as fast as possible and get them into your storage space so they're not in your living room. But stuff piles up. I think most people shop more than they list. I list like crazy. I list a lot of stuff every day when I'm not traveling. And we still have a ton of stuff. I wish that we could list, big things faster, but you can only do so much. And I mean, that's what you aspire to, is to list as fast as possible, especially when you start small. If you can start small, it's good. But once you're like a crazy full-time eBayer, sometimes it gets a little overboard.
Ways you kind of need to keep a little bit of inventory for the winter, because I found like during the winter months it was actually getting hard for me to get new inventory because there's no yard sales, so it was down to just thrift shops, which I don't like so much. And it was nice to have a little bit of yard sale overage to work through, at least for December.
Yep, that's a really good point. I mean, we do mostly flea market. Well, the flea market's closed in the winter time, so yeah, that's a good point. Spring and summer is like the time to go shopping where we are too. So
you sit down to list. Are you usually doing about 10 items a day? Is that your goal
20.
To kind of keep up?
20 is my goal per day.
Do you ever have like marathon listing where you just like sit down for a weekend and just list like 80 items, or it's usually just more of a steady 20 that you go for?
Yeah, I try to do steady because I will like burn myself out. And if you burn yourself out, honestly, you're like, oh, I don't want to list for a whole week because I listed so much. And that's just not productive for me. So 20 is my goal. And I just try to stick with that. And if I start getting bored, like today I listed like 20 pairs of men's leather wingtips. Like it starts to get boring when you're doing the same thing over and over again. But, I can switch to any other item I want. I'm like, okay, I'll list like weird fabric next. You got to just keep it fresh or else you'll go a little bit crazy.
Now, I think a lot of people have this problem. This idea of just sitting down and listing item after item seems really monotonous. Is there anything that you can do in the background as you list? Have you been able to like watch a movie or listen to a song or listen to a book or anything?
I mostly listen to the radio. Like I'll listen to NPR. Like I just listen to the news all day, which helps me feel like not as isolated, like just sitting at my computer. So I'm kind of listening to that. But I can actually get on a roll, which is good. Like once you're on a roll and you list 20 things, you're like, great, I listed 20 things today. I can do other things now. I did my goal. Yeah,
I feel like you actually do get into a listing zone, as you're saying, where I can actually listen to audiobooks, which is kind of weird because you're typing words and researching words, still listen to other stuff, like you're listening to news radio in the same kind of way. And I've even been able to kind of watch movies, assuming they're not subtitled, and list, like 10 items through a movie. And
that's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really doing well on either. I'm not in form.
Yeah.
More processing than my brain can handle there. But at the same time, it's kind of like leisurely listing. Anyway, so in terms of descriptions, I can't believe, in terms of people who don't sell a lot of items on eBay, how poor their descriptions are. They don't know all the keywords for a given genre of item, all the keywords that someone else would be looking for, the lingo, and they don't fill the titles. They don't use the description fields for each item, the added suggestions that eBay will give you. Do you have any advice for newbies about how to populate those or using them?
Yeah, I think what you just pointed out is right on. I mean, if you look at completed listings for a certain, say, wool sweater, I mean, you'll see horrible photos, no description, no title, where it's like wool sweater, and you're just like, wow, that I can't even believe someone bought that. Like, it's so crazy. But so like you're saying, you want to fill in the title with as much descriptive information. Okay, so you have a wool sweater. What color is it? Is it 100% wool? Is it made in Scotland? What's the brand? Is it for men? You only have 80 characters, so you can really fill it out. And that's going to help people find your item.
Yeah, I've been doing that, and I've actually just in the last few years, the last few weeks, I've started doing all the additional descriptions, because once you set the category, then eBay will give you all those added suggestions.
Yeah, that's the item specifics.
Yeah, thank you, the item specifics. And I think that really helps someone who's searching using the eBay drop-down menus in a way of searching for, finding the perfect Shetland wool sweater for themselves,
Yeah, I agree with that. You really need to make sure you have item specifics, like you're saying, like, is it wool? Is it a color? Is it a V-neck? People do. I even when I'm shopping for things or doing research, I'm looking for those very specific, information. The other thing I wanted to talk about too was photos. Like, when you're doing research, you'll see someone's out of focus photo, practically taken in the dark of an item, and you're like, how did that sell? And I'm always thinking, I know someone returned that because they got it and they were like, this looks nothing like the photo because the photo was so bad,
Yeah, I've had that issue too. I had a return the week before last, and it was for an item, and they were saying basically the photos weren't good enough.
Oh, really?
It showed the item had certain use, to it, or there's smudges or scuffs or anything. Like, the photos didn't tell the story of the condition well enough. And that was fair. I agree. This was an expensive fan, so I kind of understand. They were expecting an excellent quality, and the photos didn't show that it wasn't excellent. It was only good, so.
Well, one tip for that too is sometimes, there's wear on an item that's so fine, it's hard to show it in the photos. So that's when your description really comes in, where you're like, wear that's hard to see in the photos, and you have to write it out. And there's two reasons for that. Number one, so the customer can read that and understand it. And number two, when you get a customer who's like, this thing's more worn than you said, you can be like, well, it was in the description and it was in the photo. You can kind of go back. And sometimes people will be like, oh, you're right, I didn't read it. It's a little bit of like insurance on your end,
Right. That's a good point. And I think that one of the issues I have the most with picking up items from yard sales is people sometimes write the price of the item on it. And I don't want to show that the item sold for like 25 cents to me and now it's on eBay for $45. and I don't want to put it in the photo or the description, really. So what do you do when you come across items like that actually have the price written on them?
Yeah, I always hate that, especially when it's like on shoes. Like a lot of thrift stores or whoever will like write in like paint marker on the bottom of shoes, and you're like, I will never get that out. Like, how am I supposed to get that out? So what I do is there's two things. If it's on metal or plastic, you can use rubbing alcohol to get like a Sharpie off. Like if someone uses a Sharpie on plastic, that helps. Or I just take a big thick Sharpie and I just Sharpie over it, because there's already a mark on it, so I might as well mark over that mark. You know, that's what I do, and then show that mark. Like, okay, there's a big black mark on it. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't photograph it, and I just mention in the description saying, oh, this item also has the price written on it that I paid for it when I purchased it from an estate sale, right? But then what I'll do is I don't say what that price is, so when the item sells, I'll just grab my Sharpie and add an extra zero. It wasn't 25 cents, it was $25, you know?
See,
so I just changed it. Yeah. So they don't feel like they...
I think I've had people, they haven't said this specifically, but I think I've had people return things because they saw I only bought something for $4 and they paid like $80 for it. So I think they're like pissed about that. So I try to just mark that out. Like they do not need to know about any, you know, form or price. Or sometimes when we do buy stuff at auctions or other thrift stores or whatever, there's prices from yard sales. Like people dumped all their stuff from yard sales to the thrift store, and I got it for way less than like the price that's on there. But it's information that, in my opinion, the customer doesn't need to know that information, you know?
Now, I think some of the paint markers and Sharpies and stuff, too, you can use olive oil on, and that'll sometimes work out because it's oil on oil in some cases. And so I have in here for our next tips for starters to price high. And this is really something I learned from you and Jay, that it's okay to be like the most expensive version of that item on eBay ever. You know, that to charge more than people are doing on auctions, and to let it run. And I've had really pretty good results with that, especially if you're using best offer anyway, where you might not get your top dollar you're asking for, but someone can submit a bid.
Yeah, I think that it really obviously depends on the quality of the item, and that speaks to research as well, where you're like, you know, this is a really good quality specimen of this item. I think it's worth this much. And yeah, put best offer on it. You know, you're like, I think this is worth, you know, $100, but, you know, I'll take 75, you know. Yeah, I don't think it's bad to price high, but also it's not bad to undercut people depending on the item.
Yeah, I think in certain cases you don't want to outprice yourself. Like if you have a standard like Apple laptop and everyone's getting about $700 for it used, there's no reason for you to go for $1,200.
Right.
Competing with hundreds of other people for the same sale.
Right. You know? Yeah, and I think, you know, if you can just really do the research on an item, that's the key. But don't be afraid to, like, I think people tend to be like, oh, this is worth, I don't know, I got it for 25 cents. It's worth like $12. It's like, don't be afraid to like bump it up some if it's worth that, you know?
I also think there's this weird effect that I saw with a particular Sony radio where I had the Sony radio. It was really a rare, odd, old tube model that could do like 8 different types of radio frequencies, including like Air Force range and all this other stuff. And I put it up originally for $400. This is like a $1 item I picked up down the street. It was cool. It works, you know. It's a cool old radio. And I had so much interest when this radio was at $400. And, of course, it didn't sell. It had a lot of cosmetic damage and stuff. So I kept lowering the price. Now it's at like $130 or something. No one cares about this radio anymore. When it was $400, everyone's really kid, I had all these watchers all the time, various people trying to offer bids. So I think I might raise that price back up.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting when you have something that's unique enough that there's no history. Like, you don't see any other item selling for that price. Well, you use Terapeak, but like on the completed listings, it's like 90 days or something. Or no, it's less than that. It's like 30 days. So yeah, it's tough with things like that where you're like, is this worth $1,000 or like 100?
This one, like, one of these radios hadn't sold in years, so it was really unclear what it was worth. But I just think there's a whole psychological thing that happens with buyers when they see a really high-priced item. They hit like and follow it and all sorts of stuff. If they're into radios, they want to know what's going to happen with this, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of those watchers, too, are also other sellers. Because I have some items that are very high. I have a pair of lamps up for $2,000. I don't think I'm ever going to get that price, but I hope I do. But I think a lot of the people that are watching are other sellers who are waiting to see how much I sell it for.
So moving on to photos, you've mentioned already the importance of good quality photos, but I think I see another issue with this sort of OCD person that's preventing them from selling anything on eBay, and that is they want to have like a full lighted studio like you would for a professional camera environment, and don't want to list anything without these like amazingly cropped, edited photos and all this work that it seems a little unnecessary to me. Like if you had a record collection, you know, just shoot the records. You don't need to like do a bunch of photoshopping for each photo and stuff. Do you think what would be your suggestions for the newbie photographer?
Yeah, I think the point is to keep it simple and to use what you have. I mean, I started out just with my first generation iPhone taking photos, and that resolution on that iPhone was not great. And I was shooting at night using studio lights. It was not fancy. It was like just like crappy fluorescent lights that just actually kind of looked horrible because this wasn't my day job. So I was doing it at night. You know, it's important to just keep it simple and to use, in my opinion, use natural light. Those are the best photographs. If you use natural light, do not use a flash. Do not use like weird studio lighting where there's like all kinds of shadows or whatever. You know, just keep it simple and keep it clear. Keep things in focus. Another thing that a lot of people don't do, which I think is really crazy, again, taking a picture of a sweater. They don't take a picture of the label, which is so crazy to me. I'm like, take pictures of labels so people know what it's made out of. They know what the brand is. They know what the size is. On electronics or any other items, show the model number. You know, show any information that someone who, if they were physically in a store and were looking at an item, a sweater, a Walkman, you know, they're going to look at those things. So you need to show them that picture so they don't, number one, don't have to ask you, and number two, don't have to return it because it's incorrect.
Right. You know, a lot of times I pick up items just based on brand, like it's like a Ralph Lauren sweater or something like that. And the sweater itself might not look so good, but because that logo's there, I'll take a great like macro close-up shot, very clear of the tag, and make that the headliner for the listing.
Yep.
You know, if it's kind of a wrinkly old sweater, I'd rather just show off the tag on it because that's really what I'm selling more than the sweater.
Yeah, and I think that also, like, people want to know that it's authentic. Like, I was searching for a specific sweater, comparing prices. It's this designer sweater from Scotland. And there was all these people selling this brand, but they wouldn't show the tag. And I was an annoying, you know, other seller, and I was like writing to them like, why don't you have a picture of the tag? How do I know this is authentic? Like, why would anyone buy something if you're saying that's what it is, but you're not proving it up front? You know, you got to really show that stuff off.
I think people love seeing the brands, the tags. I put those all in there for my own information because I'm usually listing, not looking at the item. So I have to take the photos. And I think maybe that's a good suggestion for newbies is to try listing without the item so that your photos are that good that you can keep referring back to the information you see there.
Yeah, I don't list with any of the items in front of me. I'm only going by the photos. And we have a notebook with all the measurements and everything. But another piece of insurance as a seller is very early on, I had someone say, these shoes are a size 9, not a size 7 like I thought I was buying. And it was so crazy because I had no proof because I hadn't taken a picture of the size on the shoe. I couldn't have been like, yeah, it's in the listing. Look, I took a picture of, size, 7 on the shoe. So that's insurance for you to be like, I said it was size large. See, it's on the label.
Yep, I always do too. I'm looking, and I really I want the UK size and the Euro size, all those. I want them, so it's great just to take a shot of the tag. And it's a little tricky getting in a shoe and getting those tags clear if they were worn at all.
Yeah, I mean sometimes, unfortunately, labels on clothes and on shoes, if it's vintage, they're worn off. So that's a bummer. But if that information's there, it's good to provide it.
Yeah, and it's such a headache for me if it's not there to try to figure out what size things are. So I'll usually leave them behind if I don't see the tags. Like I just won't pick it up from the thrift shop or the yard sale at all.
Sometimes that's a good method to just keep it simple where you're like, I don't want someone to return this because, I don't have the right information.
Right. So something I learned from Jay and saying he says all the time is always be listing, ABL. And I think that's a great way to be a serious eBayer is even if you're listing an item a day, like just get in the habit of always like keeping going with your inventory, moving stuff, selling through your own.
Yeah, always be listing. We always make a joke. It's just like that scene in what's that movie, Glenn Ross, where he's always be closing ABC. So we're like, always be listing ABL. Because basically, like, if you're having like slow eBay days, which some of us have had in the last few months, we're just like, what's going on? Nothing's selling. It's like you just have to list. Just sit at your computer and list stuff because it works. Another thing we always say, sounds like a 12-step program. Listing works. So, if you list something and then in an hour, one of those things you list sells, that's a great feeling. You're like, oh, listing works. I forgot listing works, something that I listed sold within an hour or a day, that always helps.
Yeah. When I sit down and list and things are selling that were not recently listed, it might be selling like cufflinks about a year ago, but I feel like there is some magic within eBay. I can't explain it or provide any rational theory, but when I sit down and list, more stuff sells, even if it's not even the new stuff that I've put. So shipping, I think most people are doing crazy stuff with shipping. I can't believe I'll run into friends at a post office. I'm like, you're sending that like tiny GPS parcel select? Like that makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
So my suggestion to people who are just starting, and I'm curious if you have another version of this, is just start with the flat rate boxes. Just use priority flat rate. It'll cut out almost all of the complexity. There's small, medium, large. There are other sizes, but just start there. What would be your suggestion to make shipping as easy as possible for someone just getting started?
Yeah, I think that's a really good suggestion. It's like you can order those flat rate boxes off the post office website, USPS.com, or just go to your post office and ask for a few of those flat rate boxes. There's another flat rate envelope. There's a flat rate envelope and a padded flat rate envelope. And those are great as well. So anything flat rate, yeah, it just cuts out any guessing. Does it fit in there? Great, send it. Don't get too complicated. And the next point that you have here is don't go to the post office. You don't need to wait in line. You don't need to like fill out forms or whatever. Just do it all through eBay labels. That is the best, like, fastest thing you can possibly do.
Yeah, it always amazes me to see people that are going to the post office regularly that are selling somewhat regularly too. And it's like, really, you don't want to just print this at home? I'm sure waiting in line is not like what you wanted to do today. That's like recreating the commute that you would just work so hard to get out.
Yeah, I mean, I could not live without doing eBay labels and getting a pickup from my postal carrier. That just like makes my life so easy. Like I print my labels on I have a laser printer. I love it. I can't say enough about it. Like, I just put my stuff out on my front porch. Like this morning, I didn't have time to pack stuff last night. It was Sunday night. Usually I pack Sunday night, but I didn't have time. So I woke up early this morning, packed like 20 things from the weekend and threw it out on the porch, and I was done. It was great.
We had the same kind of thing this morning, too, because usually Mondays are busiest, like, get it all out. And we pack everything in the morning. So I was trying to, just get everything labeled, and Wendy was packing it up. And, it was like less than an hour. We had it all out, and, that was it. That was the end of our workday. And then we went, back to sleep a few hours later.
Oh, man, I wish I had done that. I went right to listing stuff on eBay. So I wanted to see if there was any other tips you had for people for getting started.
The tips we provided are really all I have for that information, but I think there's sort of a fear factor about getting into eBay in a more serious way, and that has to be conquered and the only way to do it is just to list items and sell. And it's a little complicated. Not everything's going to work out, but that's just part of the deal. And it's quite a hurdle, really. It's a long time period to get comfortable with eBay. I'd say several months.
Yeah, but the good thing is I feel like no matter how long you've been doing it too, you're always still learning. Like, it's not like you have to learn everything right away. It's like, this is like my 5th year in a row doing eBay, and I'm still like, should I put stuff on fixed price or make an offer? Like, I'm still questioning those things. It's so fluid. You're always going to be learning stuff. So just get started,
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you, Ryan. That was a great little tips for tips for starters. I didn't want to say newbies and sellers, but we'll just say tips for starters. This is episode 18 of eBayScavengers.com, and thanks for listening to us.